All right, so get ready because we're going deep on some real-life Halloween stories that might just make you think twice about trick-or-treating.
You know what I find so interesting about these stories? It's how they play on our deepest fears, even when we're supposed to be celebrating.
Right. Like that feeling of vulnerability we all share when we're facing the unknown, especially on a night like Halloween.
Absolutely. And the first story really captures that. Think back to when trick-or-treating was pure excitement, running around in the dark, scoring the best candy.
Oh, yeah, totally. Those are the days. But this story, it starts out like that, but takes a turn that might leave you looking over your shoulder on Halloween night. Picture this. It's the early 90s, and our narrator is a young boy, maybe 7 or 8 years old. He's out trick-or-treating with his buddies Sean and Johnny. They're a little older, and he feels kind of cool, like he's in on something grown up.
That dynamic is really important. You've got this young boy eager to impress his older friends, probably not as aware of potential danger as an adult would be. He's trusting them, which becomes a key factor as the story unfolds.
Exactly. So they're going house to house. The bags are overflowing with candy. It's getting late. The streets are quieter. And that's when they spot a man pushing a stroller slowly towards them. But here's the thing. This man, he's not lurking in the shadows or acting suspicious. He's actually quite friendly.
This is where things start to get interesting. He's not fitting the stereotype of a creepy stranger, which almost makes him more unsettling. He's using what we might call grooming tactics, to build trust and gain access to the boys.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you're right. He chats with them, comments on how late it's getting, and then here comes the hook. He offers them all the leftover candy from his stroller. He says his daughter's asleep inside. He's heading home and wants to get rid of it. Free candy. What kid would say no to that?
It's a classic manipulation technique. He's appealing to their desire for treats, creating a sense of obligation, and establishing himself as this benevolent figure. It's subtle but powerful.
And the boys, they're ecstatic. But as they follow him to his house, those empty streets start to feel different, like the Halloween excitement is fading and something else is creeping in. Our narrator starts feeling uneasy, but hey, free candy. And his older friends seem cool with it, so he pushes those feelings aside.
It's a perfect example of how easily children, especially when eager to please, can override their instincts. They haven't developed that adult sense of caution yet, that awareness of potential danger.
They get to the man's house and he ushers them inside, leaving the stroller in the living room. But here's a detail that really stuck with me. He places that stroller pretty far away from them, almost like he doesn't want them getting too close.
That's a huge red flag. It's a subtle power play you see, controlling their access to the candy, keeping their attention focused on him. And remember, we're viewing this through the lens of hindsight. In the moment, those boys are probably too excited about the candy to notice anything amiss.
And then Sean, being the curious one, can't resist. He walks over to the stroller and lifts the cover. What he finds is the stuff of nightmares.
Think about what would be the most unexpected, most unsettling thing to find in a stroller supposedly carrying a sleeping child. It plays on our deepest fears about the safety and innocence of childhood.
All right, I'm on the edge of my seat. What did he find?
A fake baby, a doll positioned to look like a real infant.
Whoa, hold on. A fake baby?
Hmm.
That's just messed up. What kind of person does that?
It's like he's deliberately messing with our expectations, right? We see a stroller, we think baby innocence, vulnerability. To replace that with a doll, it's like he's mocking those ideas, turning something innocent into something sinister.
And poor Sean, he's just a kid. He must have been terrified.
Oh, absolutely. It would be traumatic for anyone, even an adult. That feeling of being tricked, the sudden realization that this guy is not who he seems.
So what happens next? Do they get out of there?
They run out of the house totally freaked out. But as they're running away, one of the man's neighbors stops them. She had seen them with him earlier and sensed something was wrong.
Thank goodness for observant neighbors, right? It really does take a village to keep kids safe.
It really does. This neighbor, she represents that community awareness, right? That willingness to step in when something feels off. And she confirms their suspicions, tells them that the man doesn't have a child.
Whoa. So it was all a lie, the stroller, the fake baby, the whole thing. But why? What was he even trying to do?
That's the question that haunts this story. We're left with no answers. Just the chilling realization that someone went to all that trouble to lure those boys into his house for no apparent reason.
It's like a horror movie with no ending, which is almost scarier in a way. You're left to imagine what could have happened, and that's terrifying.
Exactly. It speaks to our fear of the unknown, right? The things that go bump in the night. We want answers. We want to understand why people do the things they do, but sometimes those answers just aren't there.
Okay, I need a minute to process that one. It's a reminder that even in seemingly safe places, danger can be lurking anywhere. But we've got two more stories to go, and I have a feeling they're just as unsettling.
The next story takes us a few years into the future. Our narrator is older now in college, and it's his turn to be the one handing out candy. Seems safe enough, right?
Well, it's Halloween, so as we've seen, nothing is quite as it seems.
So picture this. It's a typical suburban neighborhood, a quiet cul-de-sac. Our narrator is home alone, handing out candy. It's late, most of the kids have gone home, and then the doorbell rings.
Like the calm before the storm, you just know something's about to happen.
He opens the door, and there's this really tall man in a clown costume. And not just any clown costume, we're talking a truly creepy, unsettling mask, the kind that gives you chills.
Oh no, clowns.
Yeah.
They're creepy enough as it is. But a scary mask and it's late at night? That's a recipe for a nightmare.
And here's another detail that's a little suspicious. His candy bag is practically empty. He doesn't seem like a regular trick-or-treater.
Yeah, it's like he's breaking all the unwritten rules of Halloween. You show up early, you're respectful, you take one piece of candy, and you move on. This guy's not playing by the rules.
Right. And our narrator, he picks up on that. He tries to get rid of the guy, tells him they're out of candy, but the man keeps ringing the doorbell.
Ugh, that's so creepy. That feeling that it's not about the candy anymore.
Yeah, the situation escalates. The narrator hears the storm door being forced open and then the sounds of someone trying to get inside. Imagine that fear, being trapped in your own home, knowing someone is trying to break in.
It's like a primal fear, right? That invasion of your safe space.
Mm.
Especially on a night when we're already on edge.
He tries to call his family, but no one answers. His brother probably thinks it's a prank, but our narrator knows better.
So he's all alone facing this terrifying situation. What does he do?
He hides in his room, hoping the guy will just give up and leave. But then he hears something outside his window.
His second floor window. How is that even possible?
He goes to the window and looks out, and what he sees is just terrifying. The clown is back, standing right outside his second floor window, staring right at him.
No way. The fact that he went to all that trouble, it's chilling.
The police later find a ladder leaning against the house. A ladder that the clown had taken from the narrator's own shed. This wasn't random, it was planned.
It's like something out of a horror movie. You think you're safe in your own home, and then this terrifying figure appears outside your window.
The police investigate, but the clown is gone. The case is never solved. And our narrator is left feeling violated and with so many unanswered questions. It's a reminder that even in our own homes, we're not always completely safe.
This story really makes you think about trusting your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. But what gets me is the psychological impact. To have your personal space violated like that, it must stay with you.
Absolutely. It's a trauma that lingers. Halloween, with all its masks and costumes, can sometimes hide very real dangers. It makes you question who you can trust, even in places you think are safe.
Well, after two stories like that, I'm almost afraid to ask about the third one. But I have a feeling it's going to be just as unsettling.
The third story takes us to a Halloween party, a place where the lines between fun and danger can get really blurry.
Okay, I'm bracing myself.
Yeah.
Tell me about this party. What happens?
It all starts pretty normal. Our narrator and his friends are looking for a party, it's Halloween weekend, and they get invited to this house party that sounds promising.
So they head over, all dressed up, ready to have a good time. Typical Halloween fun rat. What could go wrong?
When they get to the party, they meet this guy who introduces himself as John. He says he's the father of the guy throwing the party.
A dad hosting a party? That's a little weird, but not necessarily a red flag, right? Some parents are cool like that.
True, but there are some things that just feel a little off. The house is kind of dark, there's a lot of alcohol around, and John is maybe a little too friendly, especially with the women.
Ah, I see where this is going. The overly friendly dad, not in a good way.
Yeah, exactly. John's all about pouring drinks, offering shots, and he seems to know what everyone likes to drink. It's like he's trying too hard to be everyone's friend, but it could be something else too. Maybe he's trying to manipulate people.
So he's creating this false sense of security, and then what happens?
Well, as the night goes on, our narrator starts to black out. He wakes up the next morning with a terrible headache and feeling super disoriented. More than just a hangover.
Oh, that's not good. What happened while he was blacked out?
He finds all these texts and calls from John from during the time he was blacked out. They're creepy messages, really persistent, and it turns out John knows the narrator's name and maybe even his address.
Hold on. How did he get that information? It's like he was watching them.
Right. And as the narrator tells his friends about all this, They start putting the pieces together. None of them actually met John's son, the guy who was supposed to be throwing the party. The house itself was really empty, no furniture, almost like no one lived there.
Wait a minute, so this wasn't even John's house?
Apparently not. The police showed up at the party for a noise complaint, and it turns out the house has been vacant for a while.
Okay, this is seriously creepy. It sounds like this John guy set up the whole party just to lure people to this empty house.
That's what it looks like, and that's really scary.
So what happens next? Did they catch this guy?
They report everything to the police, but unfortunately the story just ends there. No arrests, no answers. They're left wondering what John was really up to and if he's still out there.
Ugh, that's so unsettling. It really shows how important it is to trust your gut and be aware of red flags, even when you're just trying to have fun.
I agree. This story shows how easily we can let our guard down, especially in a party atmosphere. It's a good reminder to pay attention to your surroundings and trust your instincts.
Well, those were 3 intense stories. But before we go, I think it's important to step back and see the bigger picture. It's not just about Halloween, it's about something much deeper.
Yeah, these stories tap into those primal fears we all have, right? Fear of the unknown, what happens when trust is broken, and that unsettling feeling that danger can be anywhere, even in places we think are safe.
In the first story, we see someone taking advantage of kids and using candy to trick them. It's scary because it shows how predators can use things we think are harmless to hurt people.
The second story is all about that fear of someone invading our personal space. The image of that clown at the window, it really gets to you. It reminds us that even our homes aren't always safe.
And that third story with the fake party and that creepy dad, it shows how easy it is to be manipulated, especially when alcohol is involved.
And what's really unsettling is that none of the stories have a real ending. We don't know why these people did what they did. The victims are left with these unanswered questions, this feeling of unease that just stays with them.
It's like real life.
Yeah.
Things don't always have a neat and tidy resolution. Sometimes we have to deal with the emotional fallout of these bad experiences without ever knowing why they happened.
Exactly. It reminds us that we can't control what other people do, but we can take steps to protect ourselves and be aware of potential dangers.
So what can we do to stay safe? Especially during Halloween when it's hard to tell what's real and what's not.
Well, for kids, it's important for them to be with an adult when they're trick-or-treating. Stick to well-lit areas, don't go into strangers' homes, and if something feels wrong, trust your gut and get out of there.
And for older people who are going to parties.
Be aware and be assertive. Don't take drinks from people you don't know. Keep an eye on your drink, and if someone is making you uncomfortable, don't be afraid to speak up or leave. It's better to be safe than sorry.
Good advice. But I also think it's important to remember that these stories are the exception, not the rule. Most people celebrate Halloween safely and have a great time.
Of course, Halloween is about having fun, being creative, and being with your community. It's a time to let your imagination run wild, connect with friends and neighbors, and celebrate.
So as we finish this deep dive into the darker side of Halloween, let's not forget about all the joy and excitement the holiday brings. We can have fun while still being safe and looking out for each other.
Right. Let these stories remind us to be aware, trust our instincts, and make sure Halloween is a fun and safe experience for everyone.
And that's it for this episode of the Deep Dive. Stay safe, trust your gut, and have a happy Halloween, everyone.